Hello everybody, it's Holly from Besotted Books. Now, if I seem familiar to you, it might be for some weird coincidence on the algorithms of YouTube, or you might grow orchids. You might know me from Besotted Orchids. So, if my voice is familiar, that's why. I am Besotted Orchids. But what I'm coming to you today to tell you is I am embarking upon a journey to share another, if you see me looking, it's my dog, to share another passion with you, my love of reading. So, I also love to be out in nature. I am going to be filming a lot of these things out in the natural world. Just something a little bit different. I'm in front of a local waterfall today. You can't see it, but you can hear it. It's a very beautiful waterfall, and I just thought the ambiance would be perfect. You also will not see me without my classic cup of coffee. I plan on filming all over in nature. I do love to walk through meadows, through forests, along rivers. I'm also a kayaker, so I'm going to attempt to do a lot of filming in quasi exotic type locations for you. Exotic meaning they're not in front of my bookcase. It's not in, which I do have. I do have beautiful bookcases at home. So you will see me occasionally in front of the bookcase, especially on bad weather days. But I do think it would be novel, no pun intended, something a little bit different to show you just a more natural setting to discuss books in. Now, my taste in books runs the gamut. I'm all over the place. I love to read classical books. I love to read scary horror books. I love to read Wind in the Willows, Tolkien. So you are going to get a little bit of everything with my channel, and if that sounds like something interesting to you, please feel free to follow me. Subscribe. Subscribing is always great. I'm hoping some of my orchid people are also readers, and they will be making the move over to Besotted Books. But regardless, here we are. I want to show you, and of course I'm filming backwards, so you're going to see it backwards. I will put a picture up. Better picture. We will be discussing today Black Woods, Blue Sky. Eowyn, Ivey. Now, she's a very, very famous author. She wrote The Snow Child. She's native to Alaska, or she does live in Alaska. So her books are primarily set over there. So it does take you into another realm. It's in the nature. Lots of this book focuses on the natural world. So it's kind of fitting to be out there. I do have beautiful blue sky above me, and the leaves are not out on the trees yet, so it is a bit of a black woods. But let's talk about this book. I'm hearing it discussed as magical realism, fairy tale type essence to it. And I guess there is a little bit of a fairy tale essence to it, being that there is a magical type creature and focusing on some input from a little girl dealing with this creature. I wouldn't say it's a feel-good classic, a feel-good fairy tale by any stretch of the imagination. It does have a lot of natural elements, botany, things like that that are discussed in it, running you through Alaska, talking about what's going on there flora-wise. But it's not a feel-good book by any means. It's more of a slightly concerning book that you're going to be a little puzzled by. And I am going to give you a disclaimer. There is I'm just going to tell you. There's a man who can turn into a bear, and his name is Arthur. I'm going to tell you this up front, because I don't think I can give any justice to the book if you don't understand that that's going to be happening in the book. So, this starts out with Birdie. She is a struggling single mother. She has a young girl, Emily, and they're just struggling to get along, to survive. She's struggling to teach her remotely in an isolated setting in Alaska. So Birdie has found herself in a roadside type, she's in a bar type situation in like a lodge setting. So she's in there serving as a waitress. And along comes Arthur. Arthur is a very interesting protagonist in this book. Arthur does not spend a lot of time being Arthur. About half the time, Arthur is a bear. So, read the book or not, I'm just telling you this is what's happening in the book. Arthur, when he is a bear, he also acts like a bear. He doesn't have any restrictions that you would normally have as a human being. So anyhow, when he's a human, he's a recluse. Of course, he would be a recluse. He lives up in the middle of nowhere. You have to basically fly in or hike along the river to get there. And he was found as a child by Warren, found in the woods, in a little bit of a bear skin going on. So this has been happening throughout his life. He ages and becomes a young man, and he meets Birdie. Birdie is Emily's mother, meets her when she's a waitress, and of course Birdie's going to take in somebody who's struggling a little bit like she is. She's seen that he struggles, so she's drawn to him. She struggles herself with some alcohol, some drug dependency, things like that, and just not fitting in. So Arthur comes along, this scar-ravaged man, and she just takes him to heart. And she's like, I'm going to fix this man. Classic female problem for the ages. Birdie thinks she can fix Arthur. So they end up getting together. Arthur decides he needs to take her to his isolated cabin out in the middle of nowhere. So Emily, of course, goes along. So they are flown up in a plane by Arthur's father. All the time, Birdie has no clue that Arthur he's Jekyll and Hyde. She has no idea that he turns into a bear. She just doesn't. So that's very, very interesting for her to learn much, much later in the book. Emily actually finds out before Birdie does because she sees him transitioning back into a man. Does she decide to share this information with her mother? No, she does not. Does Warren share this information with this young vulnerable girl, Birdie? No, Warren does not. So these people are all, you can't say the child is culpable, she's a child, but Warren and Arthur are very culpable in the tragedy that does unfold later on in the book because they have not given her any warning whatsoever. The bad things are coming. She just doesn't know this. He's a little gruff, he doesn't show his emotions well. She just puts all that off. Every red flag she sees about Arthur goes out the window with her absolute desire to have a wonderful family living out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. Now, when Arthur is a man, he's really relatively good to Emily. He takes her out and shows her all the fauna, all the things, flora growing in, of course, he's the fauna. All the flora growing in Alaska in their native area, all the tiny little alpine type plants. And he goes into great detail about the botany of these, which leads her later in life to actually become a botanist. So that's a very nice ending for Emily. But things do end well for her. They do not end as well for her mother, who one night goes chasing after a bear that's wounded, thinking she can help it. The bear is Arthur. And Arthur acts with bear instincts when he is a bear. So, I don't know. I think you should read the book. I don't want to give too much away, but I do feel you do need to know that Arthur spends part of his time in as a bear. I'm not sure how this happens. The book never really divulges how this is occurring, what's going on with Arthur. But it's just known. It's known to several other people, and nobody ever nobody shared this information with the one woman it would have been very, very pertinent for them to share it with. So that's a downside of this book. That's why it's not really a fairy tale. Towards the end of the book, Emily has to go on a bit of a rescue mission. And let's say you're out in the middle of nowhere, no contact, no phones, nothing to contact anybody. She wants to get to Warren. She knows Warren is a stable guy, and he has a plane. So she's trying to rescue her mother from a situation, and she travels the whole length of this river, desperately trying to seek help for her mother. And she does eventually find Warren, because Warren feels like something's wrong, and he was already heading that direction, and he spots her down below. So it works out well for Emily, but she did go on to live with an aunt in another part of the country. I can't remember exactly where she went, but she did become college educated, and she became a botanist. And in her 20s, I think it was 14 years later, she did come back. She wanted to kind of come to terms with what had happened out there in her childhood. She felt like she had not really helped her mother any. And speaking with Warren, and from an adult perspective, she realized she was a very huge help in trying the very best she could as a child to help her mother. And there is a surprise twist at the ending. I'm not going to share with you. I'm not going to share everything with you because I don't think I should. And I want you to have something to take from this book that's all your own. There's a fairly decent ending that, you know, Emily does come to terms with things going on in her life, and she does get to embrace Alaska again. So in a way, that is good for her as an ending. It's just a very unique book. I've heard some people come at it from the viewpoint of it's, I don't know how to describe it. They go very, very deep with the book. Very, very deep. And you can read it on a deeper level, and you can think, well, there is some quote-unquote abuse going on throughout the whole book. People not telling information they should have. Or you could just read it more as quote-unquote magical realty with, you know, you have some of the realism coming in, and then you also have the magic of Arthur becoming a bear. That's real. It's a little magical. So it's different. It's different. Some people have said Beauty and the Beast type story. No, it is not a Beauty and the Beast type story. Don't go into this thinking it's going to be, excuse me one moment. You're not going to feel in any way, shape, or form that this is Beauty and the Beast. It's not. 1 second, please. I am out here speaking, and I am running dry. But anyhow, I just wanted to introduce myself and give you a quick blurb on Blackwood's Blue Sky. It is an interesting book, and you might want to pick it up just because the author, that she did write The Snow Child, which was it was a much kinder book to read from her. This goes a little deeper, a little not so pretty in the end. There are some parts that aren't pretty about this at all. So let me see what you say. I can't even talk. Let me know what you think about this book. I think it does have some beauty in it. It also has struggles. It has some mental health issues. It has, I don't want to say any romance. I don't think that Bertie and Arthur ever were romantic together. I mean, of course, they had a relationship, physical as well as somewhat on a friendly type level. They were trying to provide a life for each other and Bertie's child Emily, but I don't think it was a typical romance. So if you're looking for that, you're not going to find that with Arthur. Of course, he's a bear, but it's a unique book. It really probably wasn't the first one I wanted to start with, but I was grappling around all different books that I could talk about in my first video, and with the setting. And of course, I had recently read this, so I'm like, you know, this is not a bad book. So that's really all I have to tell you about Blackwood's Blue Sky. I am reading it every time I'm looking at it because you could easily mix those up together. But if my channel seems like something you would enjoy, I hope you do come back. If you're interested in orchids, I do have an orchid channel. I'm just going to give a blurb for that. I won't do that on every single video, but you may see an orchid popping up here or there next to me, like my coffee cup is. You may see an orchid sitting around. Of course, not outside. But yeah, it's just going to be a calm, kind of a nature focused. You know, I want some calming effects of nature around me. That's where I'm really the happiest. So, like I said, sometime you might see me floating out on the middle of the lake with my tripod set up and telling you all about a book. Sometimes I may be in front of my warm, cozy fireplace. So it's going to be a little bit of everything on my channel. I really hope you enjoy it. Like I said, I do cover all kind of different books. I'm very varied in my reading. Frankenstein is a wonderful book. And like I said, I do love Wind in the Willows. There's so many different books out there. And you can hear a motorcycle in the background. But yeah, I guess that's all I want to say. Thank you so much for watching my very first BookTube video. Please enjoy. Please have a great day. And above all, enjoy those wonderful books.